So one of the top power fishing baits on the market right now that people struggle to catch fish with all across the country is a chatterbait. So today what we're going to do is we're going to break down my top 3 reasons why you're not catching fish on a chatterbait. I'm even going to include some of the most exclusive colors on the market today, and at the end of this video I'll break down the exact gear that I'm using. But right now we're going to get up on the front and we're going to break down how you need to fish a chatterbait to get more bites. So when people fish a chatterbait, probably the one thing that I see most often that people don't do is deflect a chatterbait, because a chatterbait is designed to be bounced off of things like a square bill, but all too often people fish it like a spinnerbait, where they cast it out and just straight retrieve it. And while you do catch fish doing that, it works 10 times better if you're actually bouncing it off of something. Now that something doesn't have to be grass, even though that's what the bait is designed for, is to be fished around milfoil and hydrilla. It could also be bounced off of rock, it could be bounced off of wood like we have here. Even though it gets a bad rap for wood, it still does a great job at catching fish when you're around it. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to cast this bait and how to retrieve it in order to get some more bites on it. So right here what we have in front of me is we have a little bit of a bank situation where we have some bank grass, we have some standing timber, and we also have rock coming off the bank. And what people most often do is they will cast this bait out like this, get it not all the way to the bank, and then they'll just retrieve it in. And you'll get some bites doing that. But what you really want to do is you want to make sure this bait is going to land right up as close to the bank as you can get it. Usually I'll let it hit the bottom, and then I will slow reel that where I am still maintaining contact with the bottom. Because that way what it's going to do is that blade is going to deflect off of all the little things that are down there, and it's going to get those fish to react to it. And it'll also make that chatterbait dip and dive around and give it a lot more erratic action. And if you're not hitting it off of something, you need to either slow your chatterbait down or get a heavier chatterbait to put that on there, because that's what's really going to allow you to fish that chatterbait in the zone where the fish are at. So when I'm reeling that like that, as I'm reeling it nice and slow, you'll see I'll bounce my rod tip, speed my reel up a little bit. All of those different things that I do are going to get that chatterbait to do different things, which are going to trigger a fish. So you want to get it up along the bank, count it down, let it hit the bottom, and then start your slow retrieve. And what I want you to pay attention to is the rod angle that I use here, because when you cast it up along the bank, it's a little bit shallower. So you might have to use your rod to maintain that bait a little bit shallower like we are here. But then as it comes off the bank, if you want to keep that contact on the bottom, lower your rod, because that'll allow your bait to dive a little bit deeper, and that will change where your bait's at in the water column and allow you to get more bites by fishing it in different depth zones. So the other main thing that I see people do when they're fishing a chatterbait is right now we are perpendicular to the bank, and I see guys casting toward the bank and then reeling it straight off of the bank. And today that kind of is our MO, because we have a lot of standing timber and we have a lot of cover that's off of the bank, and it's hard to get right up to parallel the bank exactly. But what most people do is they cast it straight at the bank and reel it straight off. And in the springtime, like we are right now, a lot of times those fish are up closer to the bank along that cover, and so your bite window is only that first 3 feet off of the bank. Well, if you're just throwing your bait up a foot off the bank, winding it off, in 3 cranks of the reel, you're already out of that strike zone. And so what I want people to do is I want you to get up closer and either 45 the bank, where your cast is in that strike zone a lot longer, or if you can get up along the bank, actually parallel the bank exactly. So if you can get to the bank like we are right here, what you can actually do is parallel the bank. And that way you're keeping your bait in the strike zone the entire time that bait is up there. So as you go down the bank, your chatterbait is working for you the entire time, because that's going to increase the amount of fish that you're putting your bait in front of, which is going to give you more chances at catching fish. And then it's also just going to make you more efficient while you're out there on the water. However, if you don't know what depth zone those fish are in, like right now we know these fish are up a little bit shallower, what you can do is get out and 45 the bank and try to figure out where those fish are at on the bank. So if they're all the way up tight, you can get up and parallel the bank, but if they're actually out, you can parallel the depth zone that those fish are at, because that way you're putting your bait again in front of more fish. So one of the last things that I see guys do wrong with a chatterbait is they actually fish it too fast. And what I mean by too fast is we've kind of talked about all the different depth zones and whatnot, but a lot of times those fish are up really shallow. And what people do is they want to use a 1/2 ounce chatterbait and they try to just burn it through the shallow area because their bait is too heavy for up there. And what they end up doing is fishing it too fast by those fish instead of downsizing 2 3/8 or trying to make it to where that bait can fish slower in that zone. Because today, it's only 43 degrees. Those fish don't want a chatterbait burned past them, and so I had to slow down and go to a 3/8 and a trailer that gives it more kick to be able to slow that chatterbait down in that zone where those fish were at, because they're still up shallow, they're not out deeper, and that's why I had to slow down to keep that bait up there in that strike zone. Whereas if I kept a 1/2 ounce chatterbait on there, I'm gonna pull it by those fish way too fast and only end up catching one in every so often, instead of catching 15 to 20 like I should be doing with a chatterbait. Because again, it is one of the most popular power fishing baits out there on the market today because it catches a lot of fish and it catches a lot of big fish. So what I want to talk about quick is the 4 basic colors that you're going to have in the springtime, because the springtime varies from super clean water and calm conditions to extremely muddy water with all the heavy rains we get and extremely windy conditions. So there's 4 colors that I really like to throw. The first of which is going to be your obvious green pumpkin chartreuse with a gold blade. A gold blade to me does really, really well when that water's a little bit dirty because it stands out. That chartreuse just gives those fish something to look at. Another great color is that Firecraw. You know, this is the new Evo, the Tungsten Elite Evo. It has the orange Firecraw belly, but a green pumpkin back with a bright orange blade. Really gets those fish's attention if you have a little bit of dirty water, and it just really makes that bait stand out to really catch some of those fish as they start to come up into the shallow water. So one of the other colors that you can throw is that chartreuse and white, because it's your basic shad imitator. And if you have a lot of shad in your lake, it does a really good job at catching those fish because that's what they're looking for that time of year, especially once they get up shallow. A lot of times in the spring, that shad is shallow too, and so that's one of the other go-tos. And then lastly, one of the new baits that's out there is a bright pink morning dawn color. I paired that with a natural trailer on there, but you can put a bright pink trailer on there. You can do basically whatever you want with it, but it does a really good job in that clean water because for some reason, as we see with all other types of soft plastics, morning dawn and pink just really catches fish. And they haven't seen this color out there on the market yet today because it just came out, so they really haven't had a chance to get acclimated to it. So if you're catching fish on a different color and you want to switch it up, this morning dawn color is a phenomenal option to try. As always, don't forget guys, all of the gear that I have talked about in this video, including the specific baits, the specific rods, and everything in between will be linked down below, as well as some of my favorite gear that I wear day in and day out on the water. So if you're looking for new rain gear, new bibs, etc., and if you want to get the exact chatterbaits that I'm throwing with the exact trailers, be sure to go down below and click on those links because those links are directly affiliated toward me. So everything that you buy on there directly helps me and helps me with my sponsors to help me make more videos for you guys. So the last thing that I want to talk about that people do wrong is they actually use the wrong gear when it comes to the rod and the reel that they're throwing. And for the pre-spawn like we have here where that water temp is 60 and below, what I like to use is a very parabolic bend rod, something that has a lot of give to it, because when those fish are up shallow and that water's first getting warm, what they do is they rely on suction to pull that bait in. And so they're not coming up to eat it, they're pulling that bait back. And if you have too stiff of a rod, you end up bouncing fish off, or they'll barely get it, they'll get it skin hooked, and we've all had it where they come up, jump once, pop off, and then we lose those fish. And the reason that you lose them is because your rod is too stiff and it doesn't give that bait or cushion for when those fish pull back and try to suck that bait in. And so the rod that I use, this is an Arc Essence. It's a 7.4 moderate, medium, heavy. And so it gives that a nice parabolic bend rod to where those fish suck it, it loads up, and then you get those fish hooked extremely well whenever they eat it. And so I pair that with a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. If you find yourself still missing fish, go to a 6 4-to-1 reel because that'll slow yourself down even more and allow those fish to really get that bait. But that's one that allows you to cast really accurately because it has a slow bend. It allows you to load up and really put that bait wherever you need it, and then you put almost every single fish that eats that chatterbait in the boat. So it's no secret that a chatterbait is one of the best baits to throw in the spring, but one of the other great baits to throw when you get around some thick cover is a swim jig, especially after those fish get up there and start to spawn. Some of the cover is just too thick to throw a chatterbait in. So if you want to check out a swim jig video, which is another great bait, I will have that linked up here. But now what we're going to do is we're going to dive into a Bible verse to help spread the good word of the Lord. So as always, guys, we are going to end with the good word of the Lord. I have my Bible with me today, and the passage that I want to talk about today is Romans 13:13, and it is definitely a good one. It is the law of love. It says, "Therefore, let us no longer criticize one another. Instead, decide never to put a stumbling block or a pitfall in your brother's way. For if your brother is hurt by what you eat, You are no longer walking according to love. Do not destroy that one Christ died for by what you eat. Therefore, do not let your good be slandered, for the kingdom of God is not eating and drinking, but righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. Whoever serves Christ in this way is acceptable to God and approved by men. That's a pretty deep passage right there, and it caught my eye because I was scrolling through trying to figure out what to talk about, and I saw the law of love. And as soon as I read that first one, therefore let us no longer criticize one another, I was kind of hooked by it, because it seems like today we criticize one another for everything, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, what you do for work, what you do on a daily basis, how much money you have. We criticize one another, and we always kind of put pitfalls in others' way. Whether we know it or not, we're kind of always kind of nitpicking at one another. And that's not what we're supposed to do, guys. We're supposed to love one another wholly and completely. And especially this time of year, as springtime's starting to roll around, everybody's getting out all the stuff they got all winter long. We're opening the garage doors. You can see inside of everybody, so you can see what they have. They're pulling their new trucks in the driveway. Let it go, guys. We are all on a path for ourselves, for Christ. It is all about, we have our own journey to go forth on, and only God gives you what you are designed for. So no longer criticize one another, guys. Be true to yourself and be true to helping everybody that you see around you. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to follow on with the daily content. But God bless every single one of you guys, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.